Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
It's you and the senorita, whoop it, blowing up the tweeter, cause it's me up in the speaker. Knocking the mama seat top down like a player, and the sound up in your ears, it is the dopest rhyme, say I run a game like a cheater.
So you know that idea of the socially, societally, fiscally, and in all waysly irresponsible millennial that doesn't care about anything but themselves. You know that stereotype that seems to be floating around in this day and age. I found myself this past weekend just gone by in a weird sort of way, thinking that maybe folks that are a little bit more focused on themselves in the way that the average 22-year-old is, the average 18 to 22-year-old is, kind of have the right idea. Why do I say this? Well, it has to do with the way in which politics are our political process in America in 2016 as we get ready to elect a new president of these United States of America and leader of the free world. It's the way in which politics has become a very uncomfortable, under-evolved combination of sports fandom and religion. And I bring this up because, well, I got an interesting message on Facebook over the weekend. Now, I don't care. I don't care when people don't like me. Look, we're fortunate enough to go on the air and, I don't know, between all the radio stations, probably talk to the better part of 2 million people every single day, and that's really cool. And, you know, quite frankly, if you don't have enemies, if you're not ruffling some feathers, you're really not doing your job. So I'm used to people, you know, starting petitions to get me fired. I'm used to people telling me I'm an idiot. I'm used to people giving me a hard time. It's no biggie. But something kind of interesting happened, and I'd heard of it happening a lot. Never happened to me, though. And what happened was I got an irate letter, an irate message from a Trump supporter. Now, hear me on this one. I myself am not a Trump supporter, but I suppose I've been a Trump sympathizer. I always try and play devil's advocate on this show. I know a lot of really smart, well-intentioned people that are into the idea of Trump being president. I know a lot of smart, well-intentioned people that think anyone who is a Trump supporter is out of their freaking mind and a crazy, dangerous lunatic the way they feel Trump is. And my stance on that whole situation is, look, search for some humanity. He's speaking to a part of human nature that exists, that needs a little time. Rather than mudslinging and name-calling, it might help you to try and understand why people like and support something that you don't agree with, whether it's a political candidate, a presidential hopeful, what you're going to serve at the PTA luncheon. I don't know. Whenever you disagree with someone radically, it's worth trying to understand their perspective. But I found myself taken aback by the not the sort of the anger and the vitriol, but the knee-jerk reaction that precipitated this letter I got, which is this. You may or may not have noticed that over the past couple of debates, an inordinate amount of attention has been paid to Donald Trump's junk. Now, here's the thing. Trump didn't even start it. This is Marco Rubio fighting for his life, swinging like you couldn't believe, trying to be funny, trying to be clever, trying to take a piece of Donald Trump to, I think, gain some sort of leverage or momentum for himself on the slippery slope that he's on, declining rapidly. Every single primary or caucus seems to be another excuse for Marco Rubio to explain to us how third place is really great. And here's the thing. He decided to talk about Donald Trump's junk. And you can't talk about Donald Trump's junk and expect him not to respond. We've all heard the audio at this stage in the game. We've all heard it. But I didn't even mention anything about Trump. What did I say? I said something. I said, does the size of your junk really matter when you're running for president? Only in the swing states. Hashtag GOP debate. And the angry email. Yeah, it's funny, right? And here's the thing. It's not necessarily picking on either candidate. It's just picking on the fact that, really, this has become part of the political discourse in this country. What a presidential hopeful is packing south of the equator. The letter I got from a guy beating the crap out of his 40s made me feel that millennials absolutely have the right idea, and we'll get into why next.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
I do what I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that rat race at that pace in that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, look at you, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya, company man, feel it, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over, yeah. I do what I want.
So I got a letter this past weekend just gone by from a guy who's easily beating the crap out of his 40s. A guy who's grown up, a guy who, well, you kind of expect better from. And it made me think that maybe millennials have the right idea. Why? Well, look, millennials face a certain criticism on a regular basis. And that criticism that millennials face is, oh, you're self-centered. All you care about is you and your own life. And yeah, that's it. You're not thinking about your place in society. You don't care about who's going to be elected to whatever position that you're in the power to vote for. Brr, 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 brr. And, first and foremost, I don't mind it when people troll me. It's part of the deal. As we said earlier, you go on the radio, you talk to a bunch of people every single day. If you don't put somebody's nose out of joint, you're probably not doing your job. But in this instance, it was amazing to me because I didn't even take a swing at any particular candidate. Any particular candidate was not in my crosshairs in this one. If you missed it, I said, does the size of one's junk really matter when you're running for president? Only in the swing states. Ha ha. But I got an angry letter from this dude that was, like I said, beating the crap out of his 40s, who said, stop spreading misinformation about Donald Trump. Who the F really cares? You look like a gay slur that rhymes with the name of the funniest comedian of all time, Bob Saget. You look like that on Facebook. I'm sure you like men's junk. Pick up a copy of Playgirl. That's how you can tell how old he is, that he still believes in print magazines. And go do something unspeakable. Can't mention that on the radio.
Sounds to me like shots fired. Lots of them.
Oh, yeah. F you and your little dog.
And, really?
Yeah. And put something better on Facebook. Talk about the Rolling Stones. And the rest I can't say on the radio. And this is on my personal thing. You have to like me on my personal Facebook page to see, so this guy took a moment to give me a like and follow what I do. I didn't mention Trump. I didn't mention a particular political candidate. I mentioned the ridiculousness of our political process in 2016 and the level of logic that's involved in this knee-jerk reaction coming after me for quote-unquote spreading information about Trump, who, by the way, not a Trump supporter, but I'm a sympathizer. I can understand why some people do support Trump, and I've never gone after him. Look, there's plenty to play with there. There's plenty to play with every single candidate. I could go at, look, it's a comedic goldmine, this election in 2016. It really is. But you know what I don't believe on? I don't believe in trampling all over other people's beliefs. I try and understand. If somebody thinks something different to me, I try and understand why, and I respect that. But this level of fanaticism that, like I said, is a mixture of professional sports fandom and religion, where it could it could elicit this sort of response from somebody who feels as though their guy has been gone after, when in fact they haven't. No mention of the guy's name was made. That level of lame brain, knee-jerk, lowest common denominator idiocy from a guy who is clearly old enough to know better has made me feel like maybe millennials do have the right idea. If you are so invested in a candidate, I don't care who it is, if you're so invested in a candidate that you can take time out of your day to give me this sort of awesome material for this show by being such a freaking idiot, proving yourself to be the lowest information of all voters on the face of the planet, if you can take time out of your day to go after someone who really hasn't said anything, who's been, kind of honestly in this world, one of the bigger supporters of your guy, in terms of the fact that I'm not running him down every opportunity that we get, and there have been plenty, which I've risen above. But if that's you, if you've got this level of dedicated fandom where you're clearly not the brightest individual and you're clearly willing to dedicate large portions of your life to someone in their campaign, oof, you are headed for a large portion of disappointment when election time rolls around, if your guy gets voted for. And this goes for any political candidate. If you're looking for a politician to make any sort of changes in your life, then you are headed for the town Disappointmentville population U. And it's the people that buy into it this way, the people that buy into it, the people that buy into this idea that it's a mixture of sports fandom. It's a mixture of sports fandom and religion that are going to be so sorely, miserably disappointed when they wake up the day after the election and their lives are still the same, and they will be for years on end. And no one has the power to do anything about your situation other than you. And it's the people that fail to recognize this, the people that are willing to go in this dedicated, let's pledge allegiance to stupidity and go after folks in this way, that make me think that maybe millennials have the right idea. Focus on yourself. Don't think that anyone else is going to change your situation. It's down to you. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. Winston Churchill.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. You do what we do. You do what we do. Well, it's a new one. Here I come again, coming again, taking it back to the place where I'm picking up the pen. And before I started, it's already a killer. When you know.
So Nancy Reagan has passed away at the age of 94. Interestingly enough, her last sort of opportunity to weigh in on the world of politics before she passed away, I don't think she officially endorsed anyone, but she said she wants Hillary to win. She said it's time for a female president, and she said while she admires people in the GOP, she wanted Hillary to be president. Interesting. You know what I really admire? And you know what? I'm not necessarily what you would call a Hillary fan in any way, shape, or form, but I admire the tenacity of people that are willing to forego labels. I'm willing to admire the tenacity of people that are willing to forego labels and go with what is in their heart as opposed to whatever particular party they've sworn allegiance to. So anytime I hear of someone crossing party lines, whether it's a Democrat that's willing to vote Republican or a Republican that's willing to go out and vote Democrat, or at least someone who can see the value in a candidate on the opposite side of the fence, I think that takes a certain amount of humanity and swallowing of pride that is indicative of a more evolved version of our species. And so I kind of like that Nancy Reagan did that while I'm not necessarily a Hillary fan. I don't know if you caught it or not. She received some of the most beautiful letters from her husband, Ronnie, later published. Back in 2000, Nancy compiled the letters to her from her husband in a book, I Love You, Ronnie. The letters of Ronald Reagan to Nancy Reagan. It's beautiful stuff, no matter what you think of anything. This is worth paying attention to. In 1977, on Valentine's Day, Ronald Reagan penned this to her. Dear St. Valentine, I'm writing to you about a beautiful young lady who has been in this household for 25 years now, come March 4th. I have a request to make of you, but before doing so, feel you should know more about her. For one thing, she has two hearts, her own and mine. I'm not complaining. I gave her mine willingly and like it right where it is. Her name is Nancy, but for some time now, I've called her Mommy and don't believe I could change. My request of you is, could you, on this day, whisper in her ear that someone loves her very much and more each day? Also tell her this someone would run down like a dollar clock without her, so she must always stay where she is. Then tell her, if she wants to know who that someone is, just to turn her head to the left. I'll be across the room, waiting to see if you told her. If you do this for me, I'll be very happy, knowing that she knows I love her with all my heart. It's good stuff, right? I don't know if you caught this. This is good. She was honored again by her husband back in 1988 during the final years of Reagan's presidency.
What do you say about someone who gives your life meaning? What do you say about someone who's always there with support and understanding? Someone who makes sacrifices so that your life will be easier and more successful. But what you say is that you love that person and treasure her. I simply can't imagine the last 8 years without Nancy. The presidency wouldn't have been the joy it's been for me without her there beside me. I think it's all too common in marriages that no matter how much partners love each other, they don't thank each other enough. And I suppose I don't thank Nancy enough for all that she does for me. So Nancy, in front of all your friends here today, let me say thank you for all you do. Thank you for your love. And thank you for just being you.
A valuable lesson to us all. It couldn't hurt, really couldn't hurt, to say thank you to the people that make your life easier, whether it's someone you're in love with, your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, domestic partnership. Thank you, gratitude for the people in your life that make a difference. Probably something that, as the ominous bag of horrible, awful suck known as a Monday works its work on you, maybe a moment of gratitude to people that make the difference, to make those Mondays bearable, is maybe it's worth it today. Probably make you feel better, probably make them feel better, probably dull the throbbing pain of the aforementioned bag of suck known as Monday. Alrighty then, speaking of the fact that it's Monday, a lot happened over the weekend, and we will get to it now in our segment My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair, certainly not balanced. Funkhauser.
This is My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair, and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up, party people?
Well, you had an interesting weekend. There's a picture that you posted on Twitter that is more or less going viral of you. Well, it's a picture that you took of your girlfriend, Canadian Jane, and a wrestler of note.
Yeah.
Please explain. Please elaborate.
Well,
I'm going to retweet it now so people know what the hell I'm talking about.
So last night I went to a 50th birthday party for a penthouse friend of mine. June 93 turned 50. And so we went to Lucky Strike Bowling on Hollywood and Highland over there, and right where they do like the Grammys and all that. So it's very convenient for celebrities to just show up. And I guess one of my friends is China The real China. The China with
the
a Y.
wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, so she was floating around watching the rock band happen. Hal Sparks has a band, and he was going to perform. He's performing up there. So
Hal Sparks, the guy that hosted like the Soup when it was called Talk Soup, that guy?
you got it.
That's awesome. Is his band any good?
Yeah, sure. Rock and roll, man. It's nothing like the Dan band, but they're out there. So yeah, Canadian Jane whispered in my ear. It was really loud, so she yelled in my ear, "She's my favorite wrestler." So I said, "You gotta go tell her that." So he walked up
But hold
to her.
on, Canadian Jane has a favorite wrestler?
Yeah, she has a favorite wrestler. I guess, China's big in Canada.
Oh, all right then.
So, yeah, she was dressed all lovely, and we took a little picture, and then China retweeted it, and boom! I woke up this morning, and it's almost on TMZ.
Wow. That's an interesting one. Do you suppose that the interweb is now awash with news that China has a new girlfriend? Because doesn't she enjoy the romantic company of other ladies?
I did not apply that.
Do you think that there's any possibility that you could work yourself into an amorous three-way with China and your girlfriend? And would you want to if it was possible?
Oh, man, I don't know. That's hard, isn't it? Difficult. Very difficult. I don't know. Probably not. I mean, come on. She'd break everything. And me.
Didn't she do, like, some really filthy porn, China, after she gave up wrestling?
Probably. I haven't really been keeping tabs.
I think this was years ago. I think when she left the WWE, which might have even been the WWF at the time. That's how far back it goes. I believe she went head first into the world of adult entertainment and did so without any reservation, making every part of her body available for your entertainment, if you know what I mean. And I think you do. Have we danced around that one enough? Good. I think we have. Well, congratulations on Funkhauser for once again having an infinitely more interesting weekend than the rest of us.
Yeah, she bowled at 210. By the way, I think that should be of
China or Jane.
No, China. Sure.
Oh, okay.
No, nobody was bowling really.
Nobody actually bowled. Oh,
yeah, except that guy I told you about earlier.
Occasionally, I break 200. 200's good, right? If you break 200, that's like respectable.
That's like half strikes, I think, maybe more.
I don't know. I don't know.
I took bowling in high school, so I should know that.
Oh, really? You took a bowling class in high school? Are you any good? Like, what do you? What do you tend to bowl?
210, something like that, sure. But it's been so long, I don't know.
That's impressive, man. Because I love bowling, but I'm not that good at it. So, like, my first game will be abysmally bad. And then I'll hit my stride with the second game. Like, the second game is always one where I break 200. Now, I'm feeling good because I've broken 200. Then you get to the third game, and you realize my arm is tired. And you start, like, just whipping crap down the lane. And you're really disappointed. I have a 3-game cycle when I go bowling. First one sucks. Second one's acceptable. Third one, giant bag of suck. I need to go home. And it's usually right around the second game that I get all my confidence, where I'm like, I'm awesome. Anybody want to play some money on this? Or like, I'll bowl you for, who picks up the next plate of chicken wings or whoever. And I always wind up losing on the third one because I have this fake confidence. And you always forget, don't you? You go into these situations. What's that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I am insane when it comes to bowling. I wish I would have had a chance to go bowling with you over the weekend. That sounds like fun, man. Yeah, man. I know how to do the 4-step. I know what the arrows mean. I can point at things and tell you how to curve it. Do that little hand shaky. Yeah, I did. I took that instead of getting my butt kicked in PE in high school. So I'm in. I did not have bowling class available to me in high school, but had I probably would have done that. Oh, well. Once again, Funkhauser, congratulations on having had a much more interesting weekend than the rest of us. His weekend was spent with penthouse pets and pro wrestlers turned porn stars being hugged by his Canadian girlfriend. You live a rich and varied life, Funkhauser. We can only imagine.
Drink girl. I try. Actually, don't try.
You succeed. What's going on?
Nancy Reagan died yesterday at the age of 94.
Yeah. In her honor, I think Charlie Sheen, Lamar Odom, and Lindsay Lohan all vowed to just say no to drugs for a solid 30 minutes. She's going to be remembered for a lot of things. And I think her anti-drug slogan, "Just Say No," will be one of the biggest. Nowadays, it's a slogan for women being offered a cocktail by Bill Cosby, but nevertheless, it applies. It applied then, and it applies now. Go on.
The next presidential primary goes down tomorrow in Michigan.
Yeah.
That would be Tuesday.
For Marco Rubio, the key is to not campaign in front of these people drinking bottles of clean, clear water, the way he's been apt to do.
Oh, yeah. He was that guy, huh? Way back then. He's like, I'm thirsty. Gotta get off the camera here. Just a little sip.
Well, it's amazing the way he, his eyes locked into the camera as he reached sideways for the... Man, let's find the video of that and post it. Because if you haven't seen Marco Rubio, it was like he was the GOP rebuttal after the State of the Union address.
Too much crazy has happened since then that we just forget about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, he recovered from it, and that's all people talked about for a really long time, and it really hasn't come back to haunt him in his sort of stab at being president. I don't know, man. Everyone's just like, Marco, you got to get out. You got to get out. But he's holding. I think he's holding until,
as of this broadcast. As of this broadcast.
No, I mean, this airs a couple hours later in different places, so if he has dropped out by the time you hear it, too bad, so sad, I'm sorry. But, it's an interesting one, because there's all these people, the traditional GOP types, the ones that were just like, hey, let's have Romney run Donald Trump down. The traditional GOP
that was
types.
So great.
Oh, it was just... What they're doing is the traditional GOP. There's a stereotype of the Republican Party. There's a stereotype of the GOP of being rich captains of industry that don't give a crap about anybody else. And that side of the GOP, the more traditional side of the GOP, the side that is afraid of the extreme right, the Tea Partiers, the libertarians, whatever you want to call them, the conservative libertarians. There's a faction of the GOP that is scared of folks like that. Now, they're scared of Donald Trump, and they're scared of Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz has made a habit of going into Washington and effing up the program. And they don't like Trump because they can't control him. They don't like Cruz because they can't control him. So they wanted a Marco Rubio. They wanted somebody that they could just be like, this is what we're going to be doing today. And they would be like, all right, that sounds cool. I'm a traditional, old school conservative. That's what I want to do. Anyways, we'll get into more of what's going on in the world as we continue the show and ponder why our lives aren't as awesome as Funkhauser's next.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me.
So yeah, when they trotted out Mitt Romney and had him go after Donald Trump the other day, that was basically the GOP. And you can kick in the news bed, Funkhauser. We'll pick it up in a second. There we go. When they had Mitt Romney go after Donald Trump, first and foremost, in my humble opinion, you may disagree with this, but I don't think they could have chosen a weaker messenger for the message they were trying to send. But had he come out swinging like that, had he not sort of disappeared in the tail end of the last election, the one where he lost to Obama, if he'd come out swinging like that, then we might be looking at a very different situation right now. But we're not. Potato, potato. Too bad, so sad. I'm sorry. Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Whatever you want to apply to that situation. They could not have chosen a weaker messenger for the message they wanted to send. But it's interesting. It's that side of the GOP, that side of the traditional Republican Party, those ones that are captains of industry, those Muffy, Buffy, members of all the right country clubs, forms of the establishment. they're scared of Trump. They're scared of Cruz, and those are the two front runners. So they desperately want something to happen with either a Mitt Romney, if they decide to put him back in the game, a Marco Rubio, or maybe even a Kasich. I don't know if you caught this or not. Arnold is all about John Kasich for president. Check this out.
I want John Kasich to be the next nominee of the Republicans and also to be the next president of the United States. Here he is.
Thank you, Arnold. Love you, man.
Just one election ago, like 4 years ago, you would have had to have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars making that happen. You couldn't do that in an online video. You couldn't do that in an Instagram or a Vine. You couldn't have done, like, what was that? A whopping, all right, you got the timer, Funkhauser? How long did this take?
I want John Kasich to be the next nominee of the Republicans and also to be the next president of the United States. Here he is.
Thank you, Arnold. Love you, man.
9 seconds. 10 seconds. And that's as long as it took for the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to endorse John Kasich for president. 9 seconds, probably shot on either of their phone, just uploaded just like that.
Between hole 8 and 9, probably.
Yeah, 8 and 9 seconds. Like, that would have been something that they would have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the announcement that Arnold Schwarzenegger was endorsing John Kasich in the past. And, there might be more ads and they might spend more money, but that's indicative of the type of world that we operate in. Digital has made everything cheaper, more cheerful, more easily attainable for absolutely everyone. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. But I do know this, though. It's indicative of the way the playing field has changed and in some ways leveled. You don't need gazillions of dollars. All of Jeb Bush's money that he raised, all $127 million, I think it was, that is now, it's proof that money no longer wins you elections. Interesting stuff. By the way, in the last presidential debate, if you're like a lot of people, you notice it like, hey, did John Kasich actually show up? He was kind of like this wallflower, and everybody was wondering why he wasn't getting out. And then, well, he's got Ohio coming up, which is where he's from, and he feels like if he can win Ohio, he's really up in the game. But for the most part, everybody thought, like, what is John Kasich doing? He's hanging out in the background doing absolutely nothing, getting no airtime. And he managed to actually show up during the last GOP debate. How? By being the adult in the situation. It was interesting and somewhat refreshing. And I think, when this election cycle started, everyone was like, I'm so sick of PC. I'm so sick of politics. I'm so sick of career politicians. And I just want a normal guy. I just want someone like Donald Trump's my man, or Ben Carson's my man. He's not a politician. He's a bird. Carly Fiorina, not a career politician, not slimy in that sort of way. And that was the prevailing narrative when all of this kicked off at the beginning of the election cycle, and everybody just wanted someone different from what we've had over the past 8, 12, 16 years, whatever you want to call it. We don't want any more politicians. We want actual change. We want actual hope. We want something that is quantifiably different. That's why we think that Donald Trump is coming out swinging and saying things like politicians are bought and it shouldn't be that way, and I'm going to run an honest campaign, and I'm not going to take money from special interest groups, and I'm not going to be funded by people. I won't owe anything to anyone when I become president. And everyone went, yeah. And that's how people were feeling at the beginning of it. I am so sick of party politics. I am so sick of politicians. I am so sick of the way things have been over the last 16 years. I just want somebody or something different that's going to shake things up. And now I think people are starting to go, I just want politicians to stop talking about their junks. Like, what the hell, man? Hold on. Here's a guy in the corner who's acting vaguely like an adult and not talking about what he's got going on in the Pantalones south of the equator. John Kasich, as boring as he seemed at the start of all this, is starting to look a little bit more appealing. That is the prevailing rhetoric that I picked up on after the last GOP debate. Like, oh, wow, here's a guy that's not actually talking about how big his junk is. And here's a guy that's not making disparaging remarks about other people's junks. And this funny thing, like, Donald Trump gets a hard time all the time for being the person that lowers the bar of the conversation, but it was Marco Rubio that went in on his spray tan and his junk size, someone that was a career politician. It's interesting. Anyways, continue with the news.
Motherfunk checking in, listening live, asking, she wants to know if you've seen House of Cards.
So I watched, when I was a kid in England, the original version of House of Cards aired, and I watched a couple episodes of it. And the guy that plays the the guy that plays the head evil henchman, the chief whip, is the position that he holds in the English version of House of Cards, the original one, is a terrifying actor, like genuinely frightening, and like the he has a line. He has a line that has actually pervaded English politics, which is, "You might think that I couldn't possibly comment," which basically means like, yes, when you're speaking to the press. Is it true that they're a terrible person that has done terrible things and has a batch of things on their computer that they could go to jail for? You might think that I couldn't possibly comment. And that's been adopted by English politicians. And so I watched the original one, and I'm waiting for the American one to end so I can binge watch it all at once, motherfunk. But yeah, I look forward to checking it out. More news when we return. Plus, we'll discuss what Louis C.K. had to say about Donald Trump.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So, with the fact that a lot of the larger debates have taken place over the weekend, it puts the folks over at SNL in an opportune position to comment on what happened in the previous debate earlier that day on the Weekend Update. It's good stuff.
Bernie Sanders raised over $40 million from donors this month. Sanders' campaign is now so rich, it's voting for Hillary Clinton. According to the adult website Pornhub, the most searched for term in 30 of the 50 states was lesbian. But keep in mind, Michael travels a lot.
Lonely on the road.
New York City officials have ruled that beginning Monday, they will stop arresting people who urinate and consume alcohol in public. The ruling is more commonly known as Elmo's Law. Oh, you'll love this one. After just 3 months in prison, former Subway spokesman Jared Fogle has already gained 30 pounds. But that's what happens when your portions stop being child size.
Daryl, did you hear Daryl? Did you catch Daryl Hammond impersonating Trump during a victory speech? Did you catch this? Hold on a second. Let's see if I can find it and if the internet actually cooperates today.
What a great, great night. I really am running the best campaign, aren't I? The media's saying they haven't seen anything like this, not since Germany in the 1930s. I mean, everyone loves me. Racist, ugly racist, people who didn't even know they were racist. And this guy loves me, don't you? Wait, what's that? Get him out. As I was saying, everyone loves me. I even got this fat piece of crap behind me now. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Please, sir, may I have another?
No. Go get on a plane. Go home.
Okay, you got it.
Also, P.S. America, I have a great, big, huge...
It puts them in an opportune space to do what they're going to do. All right, let's talk a little bit more news, and then we will get on with what Louis C.K. had to say about Donald Trump.
Scientists discovered a new species of octopus on the ocean floor. Did you see it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I saw that. In fact, they found this octopus so far down, they're thinking of naming it the Rubio octopus. Go on.
Astronaut Scott Kelly is slowly readapting to gravity after spending almost a year in space.
Not unlike the process Charlie Sheen went through when he got off drugs. What else?
A new survey found that 23% of women should or would date a married man.
What?
23%. What's that, 1 out of 5?
More than 1 out of 5.
One
Really?
third? Oh,
Wow.
almost.
23% of women would date a married man, according to a new survey. Did that by any chance get the names and numbers of these women? Replied a certain former president on the campaign trail for his wife. Go on.
Police in Georgia arrested a clown for smoking meth while sitting at the counter of a Waffle House. That's funny.
It's just, sounds like the beginning of a joke. It's not. Meth-smoking clown arrested at a Waffle House in Georgia. Oh, what an idiot. Everybody knows that counter seats in a Waffle House are reserved for clowns who smoke crack. Go on. One more piece of news.
Mark Hamill says Luke Skywalker is gay if you want him to be.
Yeah, there's been all this sort of like brouhaha around Luke Skywalker's sexuality. A lot of people wondering if he is, in fact, a parent in this new reboot of Star Wars. He seems to not have had any romantic entanglements recorded, and a lot of people wonder if that's because Luke Skywalker is gay. And to that, Mark Hamill says Luke Skywalker is gay if you want him to be, which is funny because I hear the same thing about James Franco. Okay, actually, one last piece of news.
Lindsay Lohan turned down a spot on the new season of Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
Man.
She turned it down. Turned it down because spot on the new season of Dancing with the Stars is not cocaine. So she wasn't interested. More on that meth-smoking clown. More on the meth-smoking clown after we talk about urinals.
There are some subjects that are only 50% universal because of the sexual differences. Urinals are 50% universal. Most women have seen a urinal. They will look at one time. Whoa, a urinal! One time. We guys have to work them. But there's nothing to do with the urinal. You stare straight ahead of you, and what do you see? Standard, Crane, American Standard. So you got to kill the time. First thing you do is you inscribe your initials on the urinal. Then they run a little bit, then you wet down the entire urinal. Wet down, wet down entire urinal. Cover all of the dry spots. Gotta get them all. Every one. You gotta look, see if the light is shining. Then, and only then, are you allowed to go after these cigarettes at the bottom of the urinal. Camels and Luckies were easy, but a Kent with a Micronite filter takes 3 guys and a keg of beer. Come on, guys. Hey, let's go, man.
I despise urinals. I try and avoid them. As much as I enjoy the hilarity of George Carlin, rest his soul, and as much as I agree with his whole thing, that urinals, I can't get over the propensity for splashback. I found what I think is the perfect angle. If I'm absolutely forced to go into a urinal, there is an angle at which you are not in danger of getting any of anybody else's on you. And I've mastered that, but it doesn't change the fact that when at all possible, I choose to go into a stall. And I choose to have absolutely no chance of anything that is not originated inside of me getting on my clothes. I can't stand urinals. Filthy, disgusting, awful things. And I also don't like the social aspect of it. I hate it when people try and talk to you at the urinal. I hate it when there's people standing there doing the hands-free thing. And obviously doing the hands-free thing. Like, you ever get to a urinal and the guy next to you is like, and he puts his hands behind the back of his head and he leans back like he's just waking up from a long nap, and you're just like, how dare you? How dare you be that random with what's going on in there? It's people like you, sir, that are responsible for the decay of society, both the fabric of the moral decay and any other type of decay that you wish to talk about. Like people that don't care to the point where they are willing to splash themselves and anybody around them by going hands-free at the urinal. I spurn you as I would spurn a rabid dog. Not cool, dude. Anyways, this meth-smoking clown sounds crazy. But I really can't guarantee it's the craziest thing that's going to happen at a Waffle House this year. The cops in Gainesville, Georgia, got a call. Always in Georgia with Waffle House. They got a call at 4 a.m. this past Tuesday, just gone by, from Waffle House. Apparently a clown had showed up, smoked some meth at the counter, as one does when one is a clown, then locked himself in the bathroom. The cops came, managed to get him out of the bathroom. He turned out to be a 25-year-old guy named Jacob Worthington. And when the cops searched his bag, he also had marijuana, mushrooms, and LSD. And the police report doesn't say why he was dressed like a clown. We're thinking the shrooms and the LSD kind of explain it. But he was arrested on 3 felony drug charges. You can see his mugshot up at the smoking gun. Picture, Funkhauser, picture for a second a clown, a 25-year-old guy that has chosen to be a clown that gets arrested for smoking meth at a Waffle House in Georgia at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. Do you have a picture in your mind's eye of what this guy looks like?
Yeah. Sad clown.
I can guarantee you that he looks, how he actually looks is exactly how you're picturing him. Like, you look at this guy's mugshot, you're like, oh yeah, totally makes sense. That is a meth smoking clown that gets arrested at 4 a.m. at a Waffle House in Georgia. Totally makes sense. The reason I played George Carlin is not because of a certain fascination with urinals, but because George Carlin was a personal hero of Louis C.K. Louis C.K. said he realized that, well, being a comedian, you got to work for 20 years to be anything. For the first 10 years, you suck. And then for the next 10 years, once you get good, you're just trying to get people to notice the fact that you don't suck anymore. Louis C.K. always called out George Carlin as his hero because George Carlin was a guy who would write an hour, tour that hour for a year, record a special, then throw it all out and start again. He said most comedians are working for 10, 15 years on the same crappy 25 minutes. And he said George Carlin is a guy that gave him the courage to start all over again every single year, start fresh. And Louis C.K. sent a mass email to fans asking them to watch his web series, Horace and Pete. He does this every single time an episode of Horace and Pete comes out. But this email, he turned it into a plea to people to stop voting for Donald Trump. He said, please stop it with voting for Trump. It was funny for a little while, but the guy is Hitler. He's an insane bigot. He is dangerous. I'd like to preface all this by saying I don't necessarily agree with anything he says, but he artfully encapsulated the feelings of a lot of people that I've talked to about this. And there's one line in particular that, he really hit a nail on the head. Saying a guy is Hitler, let's not go ahead and cheapen the comparison or cheapen the lives of people that actually survived through the horror that was the Holocaust. But anyways, he goes on to say the guy is Hitler. He's an insane bigot. He is dangerous. If you are a true conservative, don't vote for Trump. He's not one of you. He is one of him. Everything you have heard him say that you liked, if you look hard enough, you will see that he one day said the exact opposite. He is playing you. Now, before you accuse Louis of forwarding the liberal Hollywood agenda, he said, quote, frankly, I wish the next president was a conservative, only because we had Obama for 8 years and we need balance. And not because I particularly enjoy the conservative agenda. I just think the government should reflect the people. And we are about 40% conservative and 40% liberal. It's an interesting one, for sure. And he goes on to ask conservative folks to vote for Jay Farrow. Not Jay Farrow, sorry. He goes on to ask conservative folks to John Kasich. Jay Farrow's a guy from SNL.
Did you just see that name as you were?
Well, no, it's because I was sort of ahead of myself. Hold on a moment. Jay Farrow did something on Weekend Update. Did you see it? We'll get into it tomorrow. He did a brilliant spot-on impersonation of every... you know what? I'm not even going to give any of it away. We'll get to it tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being a part of our radio family. Just FYI, to clarify, Louis C.K. probably would like you to vote for Jay Farrow, but you can't. So instead, he wants you, if you're conservative, to vote for Kasich. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's definitely a Monday. I'm off to have some more coffee. Thank you. Have a good one.
You know how a lot of times